Well, welcome to the podcast. For all of you listening and watching, thanks so much. We appreciate that. We got TJ and Austin on the podcast today. Thanks so much for being on. Really
it's
appreciate
nice to finally
that.
be on.
Thanks, so a little backstory. TJ has been talking in my ear all week about he's not been on a podcast. All these other people have been on the podcast.
Even had Ian and Jordan.
And Jordan and Megan and all this other stuff. Chad's behind the camera saying, "What the heck? Why am I not on here?"
Well, Chad, if the camera comes on, Chad runs.
Hey, at least you got a deep bench. You know,
right?
You got a deep bench.
I do. I have quite a bit of people I can pull from.
Just so happens the TJ's on the end of the bench. Yeah, you know, it's a deep bench.
But I'm always picked last for fun. It's okay.
We got 10 people. He's number 9. Maybe 10, I don't know. We'll see. No, but thanks TJ for being on. You bring a lot to the table.
Even if I had to twist your arm.
Yeah, he was complaining yesterday, and he's like, "Be careful what you wish for, because it might just happen." So,
TJ's a great candidate for this podcast, though. So we're talking about quaders.
Yeah, we're talking about mainly brushless micro quads.
If you guys are watching the video podcast, you can see we have a whole pile of different micro brushless quads. Yeah, there's definitely they've been coming out with a ton of those. But I had a question: like, what is considered micro brushless? Like, is it 110 millimeters and under, or is it just, the motor size? Or
I mean, really, I don't know.
but let's define it right now.
Yeah, the majority of what I've seen is like if you go on, just for instance, Multi-Rotor Mania, I've been on their website all day, and they have a lot of 130 and smaller carbon frames. So for me, 130 and smaller is what I would call it.
Okay.
Pretty much if it's running like 1400 series motors or smaller, I would call that micro.
Sure. Well, there's even some that are running even smaller motors now, right?
Yeah.
Like 1300 and stuff like that.
Well, these got 1104s.
1104s, yeah.
The Gremlins and the Baby Hawks.
Just keeps getting smaller.
Yeah.
Now, why is that new, do you think? Like, why is it the motor technology? Is that what's making it more possible?
I would say yes. I tried a micro brushless probably 2 years ago now, and it was absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just awful. It
bad.
It flew, but for like 5 minutes, and then it died.
Okay, interesting.
And it was just the motor windings, especially where the wires connect to the motors, is very touchy, I guess. And that was my issue, is I kept breaking them off. And luckily, these new ones, they're a lot more sturdy.
Yeah, my suspicion is it's probably motor quality.
Yeah.
And flight control, flight controllers, I'm guessing, are probably getting a lot
smaller, and
getting a lot more refined, a lot more dialed in. But yeah, so there's some of the more popular ones are out. We have the Furious FPV, Mosquito sit on the table here. That was kind of like one of the very first ones that came out. That just were that 100 or under size.
Yeah. Right.
Actually, that one's even smaller. That one's
70 millimeter.
Reliable.
Yeah, and reliable. Yeah, and then most recently is what's blown me away is the price point. How far and how fast the price point has been dropping on them.
Well, the one that I built a couple years ago, even though it was junk, man, it was $150, $200.
Well, I believe that, yeah.
And
because a lot of people usually think that when something scales down size-wise, that it also should scale down in price. And that's not always true.
Right.
Because you can buy a $1,000 cell phone and you can buy a $1,000 television. They're both made out of, they both have screens, they're both electronics, but they do very different things, and the price points are similar.
Yeah.
And that's been true, I think, for the micro brushless class for quite some time. Except for you're dealing with less materials, you have less carbon fiber, you have less labor, you have less material. But I've been really impressed with the Baby Hawk, with the $99 price point of the Baby Hawk, and that for that matter, the Gremlins as well.
Yeah.
You can pick up, what is it? Basically the power pack of the Gremlin is the same 1104s that the Baby Hawk is using. But I think we have that for what,
$74.95, I think at the moment, and that includes a frame.
So for under $75, in the case of a ready to fly for the Baby Hawk, for under $100, you can get flying, and that's what basically the for like the tiny whip and that sort of thing. That's what a bind and fly inductor costs.
Yeah,
right.
Is $99, and there's all kinds of upgrading and swapping out, and every week you're changing out motors and that sort of thing, and for a tiny whip. So. Have you guys had any issues with we've been flying the Baby Hawk a little bit, we've been flying the Gremlins a little bit. Have we had any issues with motors going out or having to replace motors?
The only time that we had a big issue with one of the motors was actually on this red one. You can't. Those of you that are listening obviously can't see it. TJ decided to take a fun experiment and try a couple different sized batteries on the Baby Hawks. It said
TJ has a habit of doing that.
I don't know where he got the information, but he decided he'd try a 4-cell battery because 3-cell went so well.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what, 4-cell, let's try that. He spins up the motor and poof. Magic smoke, ESC blown.
Magic smoke. We had to put out a fire.
That's
Magic fire.
That's true. It was on fire.
Now, what size ESCs come standard in the
6
Baby
amps.
Hawk? So they're 6 amp.
Yeah.
So I can see why 4-cell might have been an issue there.
It says that 4-cell.
It says 4-cell capable,
but no, don't do it. Actually, on my Gremlin here, which if you're watching, it has the nice carbon fiber frame.
Ooh.
That is beautiful. Now I put 12 amp ESCs on those, and which Emax has a new Bullet series, and even the 35 amp ESCs are just crazy tiny.
Are those the 12 amp on her now?
Yeah.
Wow. Those are really small.
That's what I'm saying. So I put 12 amp ESCs on it. It flies great, 2-cell, 3-cell, but 4-cell still is not it don't do it. It does it as long as you stay under like half throttle.
Yeah.
And then if you go above that, it desyncs and turns into a cannonball.
that happened the other day, actually.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yesterday or the day before?
Day before, I think it was. We had to remove it from a roof again. Thanks, Ian. For
Ian's the man. He climbed up there. It's fantastic.
So what's the appeal, guys? Is smaller better? Are we just going to keep getting smaller and smaller? Or is there a size to that? Or is there a sweet spot?
Why not? Let's take it as small as we can, and then we'll do the whole, you got a tummy ache. Let me fly in there and see what's wrong. There we go.
FPV surgery? Is that the plan?
Super micro brushless.
Super micro.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they can't really get a ton smaller and still be fun.
For me, the Gremlin is pretty much perfect.
Yeah.
Because you can throw it in the box. You can do whatever you want to with it. It has a ton of power, especially if you take it to 3-cell, which, two, like I told Artem the other day, he was asking about 3-cell. 2-cell is recommended.
Yep.
3-cell is possible. It runs great. It's a lot of power on 3-cell. But if you do run it on 3-cell, I wouldn't do it, don't put it on full throttle and leave it there.
Yeah, right.
Just have fun with it. Because the motors are the question mark, really.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, everything else will run great on it. So.
Yeah, for most mere mortals, I think the 3-cell will probably be plenty.
Yeah,
but
2-cell.
2-cell, yeah. But definitely, the more crazy you want to get, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that the part of the advantage with the brushless is probably also flight time.
Yeah,
I know
for sure.
that for a totally tricked out tiny whoop, you're probably looking at like a minute or two of flight time, minute and a half, something like that.
If you disable low voltage cutoffs and all this other crazy stuff, you can get up in a couple minute marks. But yeah, for these, I don't think anybody's really tested flight time on these, but we're getting 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah, we've been saying like 4, 5, 6 minutes. I don't think we've actually done like some time testing, but it feels like a respectable battery.
It's long enough that by the time you get done, if you haven't crashed yet, you're like, man,
yeah, I'm still flying.
This is a long time.
Yeah, and something this small, you're still pushing it quite a bit.
Yeah.
So for somebody that doesn't have a micro brushless or is thinking about getting into it, is this something indoors, or what's the minimum amount of space that you would need to fly one of these? I'm guessing this is a perfect backyard garden flyer.
Yeah, but it's more based on skill level.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, for pretty much everybody here in the shop, we can fly them in the shop just fine.
Sure.
Flying them around the house. I mean, I took Stefan's arm off yesterday and it grew back, thankfully.
But scar.
Sorry about that.
It's all right, buddy.
That's another good question. Do these hurt? I guess Stefan would be a
do
good
they hurt?
Well,
they don't feel good.
They don't
right?
feel good, but they don't feel like your arm's going to fall off.
Right. You're not going to get like lacerated by it.
It's kind of like if some guy comes over and just pinches you real fast and makes you bleed.
I think just about all of us have gotten hit by one at this point.
Yes.
And it doesn't feel great.
Yeah. Alex has hit himself, actually.
But I don't think you're actually...
Yeah.
I would be shocked to see like one of these break skin. You'd have to be doing something really evil with it to do that. So they're relatively safe, I guess.
Or sharpen your props or something crazy.
Yeah, get some real pointy props on it. Don't do that. Yeah, the props have like real blunt edge on them.
Yeah, they're like a bullnose prop.
Now this one, we're looking at the Blade Torrent 110. It looks bigger than 110 to me. Maybe it's just the prop guards on it, but I feel like that's getting. It's getting big, but I've heard some really good things about the Blade Torrent. I don't think anybody here's flown this one yet.
I've yet to fly it.
But I've seen some really cool videos online. I've seen some people speak very highly of it. So
it looks cool.
It does look cool,
and it is 1104 motor, so it's the same as the Gremlins Baby Hawks, but they're a higher KV.
Oh, okay.
So it'll probably sound a little bit louder. That's one of the cool factors about the Gremlins. The Baby Hawks are still loud. I mean, I guess it's resonating through the frame, but
Plastic frame.
one of my cool things about the Gremlin is how quiet it is compared to a lot of the other ones. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to the Torrent, is just seeing how loud it is with the prop guards on it. It probably will be a little bit better to fly inside. And don't have to worry too much about breaking things, but the sound factor will be the determining thing for me.
So I've heard people in the industry. I've actually heard this exact comment, from people in the industry, which is, what's the next Tiny Whoop? People have used that phrase just because I think Tiny Whoop was kind of unexpected. It just something that blew up, and it just caught on really, really fast. Do you guys think that MICRO Brushless is the new Tiny Whoop, or do you think it's just something different entirely?
I have to say that, after flying a Tiny Whoop and any of these other brushless quads here, like the Tiny Whoop, I think is in its own class because it goes slow enough and it's small enough that you can literally go anywhere and everywhere. Yeah. And it's stable, and you're not worried about hitting anything. You can hit somebody in the cheek and bounce off, whatever, go through super small holes. These brushless micro quads, they just have a little bit too much oomph, too much power to be able to go and continuously go through small holes, unless you're like a TJ or an Ian that is a professional pilot. In my opinion, I think Tiny Whoop will always be in its own class. But
Tiny Whoop's definitely not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of my opinion as well, is that none of these are basement flyers. None of these are, you're not going to buzz around your kitchen. You're not going to go through your living room with these. Like these are definitely, for somebody at my skill level, these are probably outdoor flyers. And if you want to get really crazy and don't mind breaking stuff, maybe an indoor flyer. But like something that I thought was remarkable about some of the MICRO Brushless is just how much it flies. Like I think that like something like a 3-inch, like a Vortex 150 is a 3-inch, right?
Yeah.
Like that was, to me, it was remarkable how much that felt like a 5-inch, even though it's much smaller. And what I think is remarkable about the MICRO Brushless is how much it feels like something bigger, like a 3-inch. So I think that even though you're getting smaller, your weight to thrust ratio is still absurd, and so you have a lot of available power and that sort of thing to you. Where with a Tiny Whoop, you're pinning, at least the ones that I've flown, you're pinning the throttle and then you're hitting the ceiling or you're bumping up against the ceiling, but you don't feel like you're breaking stuff. Right. So yeah, I think I agree. They're just a totally different class, but a totally different type of fun. So if you have a beefed up Inductrix, or if you have an Inductrix FPV or something like that, I would strongly suggest looking, especially at the price point they're at now. I would strongly suggest looking at a MICRO Brushless.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's the price is dropping, the motors and ESCs and technology is getting better. So really, it's such a good time to get into that MICRO Brushless scene, to be honest with you, which is really cool. And also, I just wanted to note with the Gremlins specifically, obviously, because we've been doing a lot of that Gremlin stuff around. If you guys have seen on the episodes and vlogs, it's because we literally can't get enough. Yeah. Right? I mean, it is that much fun. And I'm just going to be honest with you guys. It's that much fun to fly these quads. Whether it's indoors, whether it's outdoors, whether it's underneath things, above things, going over roofs. I mean, it doesn't matter. Right? We literally enjoy every single time we pick these things up and fly. And now, obviously, we're sourcing the carbon fiber, so it's even making it stronger. I mean, the frame's not going to break. No. I mean, you're not going to break this. You could run into a brick wall probably, and it probably won't break.
Actually,
asterisk on that.
I think somebody did break one of the Delrin frames.
That was actually this one, which is Alex's, but it's because
that's right. The
arms are too slender.
Yeah,
which has to scale them up.
Hopefully we get to send that out this week for carbon.
Yeah.
So that's one thing to look forward to, is having a miniature alien looking frame for the man. I'm excited for it.
Yeah,
and he did a really cool job.
And the other thing on that is that obviously we're sourcing carbon fiber frames of the frames that we've made, et cetera. But we also want to see you guys make up your own frames. We want to see all your 3D printed models, whether you CNC cut it, whatever it may be. Like there's a thread on the forum right now, DIY Gremlins forum, and it's got 190 posts of some sort.
That's so cool.
With people talking and chatting about different things, troubleshooting, showing all their 3D prints or carbon fiber or whatever it may be. And it's just awesome to see the hype behind it. But everybody's just joining in together and enjoying the time, with all the Gremlins.
One cool thing I seen the other day is, Gremlin. Just the name. Somebody posted a picture of an Emax Power Pack because we had, over 300 in stock, and they sold out within, 2 days, which was amazing.
Yeah.
But the downside is they sold out within 2 days. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a good thing and a bad thing.
Our number one question right now is when they're coming back in stock.
Right.
And they will be back in stock this month. We're going to get another big mess of them. I'm sure those will sell out, but we're kind of working on our supply chain there and making sure that we're keeping them in stock. But I know it's frustrating to hear all this hype about it and I'm going to buy one.
Not be able to buy and fly.
Another thing we've experienced, and this has kind of been industry wide, is the shortage of the 400 size batteries and that sort of thing. We're working on that as well. Yeah. So give us another couple weeks here and we'll have everything loaded back up for you guys. So we don't want to hype it too much and then be like, hey, by the way, you can't have one.
Don't.
You like what we got?
The cool thing about it was somebody had bought one of the Emax Power Packs and took a picture of it and said, I can't wait to build my Gremlin.
Nice.
So even though they didn't, necessarily get it from us, just the idea behind the fun is still there, man. And that really kind of set me back. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I remember Josh talking about the catchphrase about it's not about the performance, it's about the fun.
Yeah.
That was his kind of slogan behind the Gremlin. And it's really stuck. And not only in our minds, but most people just enjoying the time that they have with their Gremlin and sharing the fun with others, which is really cool. So
And that's another thing that I like about it is the fact that, people are making their own frames. And the goal for us is to be able to get those frames. And, obviously we can't do everybody's frame, but get those and have them on the store for other people to experience.
Right.
And be able to, cut it out, print it out, whatever. I mean, even Jesse Perkins, Mr. Tiny Whoop, is actually making his own frame out of carbon fiber right now, which it should be done fairly soon.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I mean,
I can't wait to see that one, right?
Just seeing everybody get their hands into this is just so fun.
Yeah,
so
and also
cool.
you got the opportunity now. I think it was yesterday. We just put the frames that you can buy separately.
Yeah.
So you don't have to buy the power pack if you already have something of that nature, and you want to build something with other motors or whatever. You can buy the different frames.
Yeah.
I think TJ's and Josh's
currently
are there right
in
now.
In
Delrin,
but
they're going to be obviously sourced in carbon fiber.
Everything else will
we're
be
getting
soon.
that situation. So you guys can go on there and check that out as well. So that's kind of a nice little thing. So is what it is. So as far as micro brushless quads are concerned, obviously, be on the lookout for new and available units that are going to be coming to the market. We're obviously looking to always add new things to our store, to our community, and those things are going to be coming out here, regularly, I'm sure, with all the new technology, just in general. But should be fun to see where the industry goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure there'll be plenty more of these things coming out.
Indeed. So another small topic today that we're actually going to chat about is the Red Bull Flugtag. Just a quick note that obviously we went last year and enjoyed a lot of fun with the Red Bull event. Won first place, and was it People's Choice Award? Viewers' Choice?
Yep.
People's Choice?
Like how you talk about it, just a small thing.
Just a little tiny thing.
It is what it is, man. Yeah, we got a couple trophies.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
funny.
where does trophies get to? It's
Yeah, I think I think they're in the video guys. Right?
Yeah.
That's an appropriate place for them.
Yeah, that's good. But no one can see them. That's the unfortunate. It's on the corner. But no, so we went to Pittsburgh a while back to announce the whole thing with them. And we put it in our application a little while back, and we just found out that it got accepted. So that's really exciting. So we will be at the next Red Bull Flugtag, which is August 5th.
August 5th, yeah.
I believe, right?
And I get to go because it's so close.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take my whole family and just watch you guys fall in the water.
I think my whole family's going to go as well. So,
Yep.
And it's in conjunction with a big festival that they have down there in Pittsburgh.
Right.
So if you're anywhere,
Three Rivers Regatta.
Is that what it's called? Okay.
Yeah.
So if you guys are anywhere in the general vicinity of Pittsburgh and want to come see something really cool, the flight test team will be participating in that Flugtag. And also just that whole festival. I've never been to it, but I guess it's really, really cool. It's down there. It's on the river, and something crazy like 400,000 people or something like that go to that. So it's a big, big deal down there. So if you're looking for something fun to do for the weekend in August 5th, we'll be out there. We are rolling along with our different STEM programs, our submitting designs or whatever for our Flugtag machine. So all these 6th, 7th, 8th graders are designing and are making scale models of what they think a Flugtag machine should be.
We've seen one of the wings not too long ago, and it's crazy what they can do.
Well, it's what's cool with the middle schoolers is that they're just like they're it's not like where we know. They're not coming from the perspective of like we know everything there is to know about aerodynamics, and we already know like how to force it, how to make it something that's best. That they're just doing like a ton of research of like what's worked in the past, why did that work, what's another concept that we can add to that, something else that's worked. And so they're really approaching it from like a research perspective, that sort of thing, and they're absolutely killing it. So I think that we're gonna have a pretty cool Flugtag machine for that. Where here at Flight Test we'll build the scale, the full scale model of that, but it'll be from the minds of middle schoolers. So it'll be cool to see that take flight.
It's unbelievable to see what can come from. And it goes along with also what we just got back from Flight Fest West, is that some of these kids, whether it be 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, or whether you're just getting into college or whatever, or in high school, these kids, their minds are moving at 1,000 beats or whatever it is per millisecond, whatever.
Neuron per millisecond,
whatever. I don't even know where I was going with that.
Thing. That's not real.
But like they're innovating. They're going above and beyond. And like just to think, like when I was in middle school, like what was I doing? I was kicking a ball around, playing with friends. These guys are designing airplanes, like that are flying. You know what I mean? And so it just goes to show that you can kind of achieve almost anything that you want, if you set your mind to it. And so to the STEM programs that are helping us out and all over the country, thanks so much for what you do, because it really does make an impact. And if you have not gotten into STEM, consider doing so, because it's something that really moves the minds of the young people these days, and a lot of people are looking to get into it. So go check out obviously fcstem.com if you have the opportunity to do so. Get in your local school, but also keep on the lookout for some new STEM stuff coming at the Flight Test stuff. So thanks to all you guys for doing that. Thanks to Red Bull for putting on such an awesome event, because it really is a fun time. It was a thing that I got to check off my bucket list for sure.
Get to double check it
right now. I get ding 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 ding, which is really cool. So should be a lot of fun. So if you're in the Pittsburgh area, come check it out. Another little thing is that we actually didn't get to do this the last couple podcasts because we were doing some community showcase, or not community, employee showcase, and some video guy stuff. But getting back to a small community showcase, I was looking through the articles, looking through the forums the other day, and a guy named Ben Preston popped up on my feed. I was looking through, and this guy's really cool because he has built, get this, 96 airplanes.
It's awesome.
I don't know if I've ever done anything to the 96
now,
number.
Does he have them all still together, like in his house?
From what I understand, I doubt it. I'm pretty sure as I was going through the article, there weren't everything there. There wasn't everything documented, but he did say that he had 96 planes altogether. The other cool thing is that it was 44 of those 96 are flight test airplanes. Now, I don't understand if it's actually 44 individual flight test planes, or if there's multiples of those airplanes. But it's really cool to see, because obviously here at Flight Test we have a lot of different people who in our community, whether it's Beta Builders or with Don Sponholtz or whoever, a passion to build. You see that on the forums all the time. And at the end of the day, that's kind of what makes FT go round, is that the passion to build, to fly, to crash, and repeat.
Well, that's kind of what Alex was saying. Speaking of Jesse Perkins at Flight Fest, said he built was a Scout. And instead of actually going out and flying a Scout, he started building an Arrow. There's just some people just love the building process.
No,
And
it's
just
true.
relaxing.
And I think I can't remember the statistic, but a while back I was looking through everything, and I think it's somewhere up to like 60 or 70% of our audience are scratch building, right? It's a very smaller percentage that actually go and buy the kit online. It's a bigger percentage that actually go and get the free build plans and build from scratch, which is really cool to see, because obviously we give this product out, we give them the option, but people are so passionate about it. I just want to build something with my own bare hands and be proud of it. And that's really cool to see in the community. And just on that note, he's built like a Versa Wing, a Bloody Wonder, an Explorer, Guinea Pig, Bushwhacker, Cruiser, Kraken, just to name a few. And some of those are pretty big airplanes. So that passion of building, I wanted to note that, because that's a big deal for us. When we see that in the community, it also promotes us to do that, to come up with something new, to come up with something that inspires other people. Because when you build, you inspire others. Flight Fest West and Flight Fest in general is a that's how you've seen it. You see the passion that grows and the inspiration that grows from those big builds that we see at Flight Fest. And there were a lot of them this year.
It
but
looked amazing.
In general, and you'll see some coming up here in the near future in some episodes. But I feel like I was there on one day, there was 3 big builds, and then the next day there were 6, because people were like, I want to build something, right?
Why not?
And exactly, why not? And you see that all the time, and that's just the cool part of Flight Test, is that, and just the community in general, is people inspire other people, and that's why it grows. That's why it grows so continuously, which is really cool. So Ben Preston, thank you so much for inspiring others. Thanks so much for building everything under the sun, it seems like, which is really cool. Thank you for everything that you do, and thanks to the rest of the community that help people do that and to inspire them to do so. And then also to kind of transition out of maybe the talking points and all this other, something we always like to do in podcasts is do some community questions.
Let's hit some questions,
which is really cool. So let's check into that.
No, I don't know if it's on the list, but one thing I see a lot is, why are you wearing headphones?
Is that a really question?
That has happened.
A lot
once
of
or
people
twice.
ask that.
Interesting.
And it's just because if we weren't, I would be yelling trying to talk to you.
Yeah. The main reason to wear headphones is just to know, like when you're wandering off mic like this, it's easy to do that. It's also what we're hearing is exactly what we're recording.
Yeah.
Right. So it's good to stay.
And
on
a
top
lot
of
of the times it's people on YouTube asking, and the fact this
and
is
it feels
more for radio.
It feels comfy too.
Yeah.
It's
My
like
ears are
earmuffs.
nice and
Yeah,
toasty.
it keeps me warm. If there's a draft in here, which there always can be sometimes.
So the first question is from Ross McLaughlin. He says, I miss the old challenges like flying toaster. Bring them back. I have one for you. What's the biggest wingspan plane that you can make and fly with foam board? Please give it a go. That's a question that we get a lot, is like, do more challenges. And so, we obviously, not every single video can be a challenge.
Right.
But usually when I'm responding to that question on YouTube or whatever, it's like, hey, you guys have, you guys never do challenges anymore. You guys should do a challenge. Usually our last challenge was like a week ago, and so you just link them to the last challenge. So we do try to do a couple of challenges a month, but absolutely the number one inspiration for challenges is your guys' suggestions.
Yeah.
So if you have a cool challenge suggestion, we always take a look at those and always try to make them happen.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead, TJ. You can hit that next one.
He says from Michael Spitz?
Spitza? Something.
Sorry if I messed that up, brother. Says there was a large banner that showed all the FT planes arranged by which power pack they used. Could a graphic like this be added to the website? Because my next project is often determined by what motors, ESCs, and servos I have available, which that's even the case with me here at the shop. It would be a great way to see what I can build, thanks to everyone who makes Flight Test happen.
Actually,
That's a cool diagram.
Yeah.
I don't see why we couldn't throw that up.
Yeah.
It needs probably updated. We've probably done
It does, yep.
half a dozen or dozen
Yeah.
planes since then. But
Yep.
but yeah, I don't see why we couldn't throw that up.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
pretty
it's a
sweet.
good option. And
Alex.
Alex, we'll get Alex on that ASAP. He's the builder and designer of that awesome little graphic, which is really cool. It's a good question. Stephen Holman says, in the old days, there was a rapid fire Q&A. Could you bring back that quick answer next question
Yes.
format? Yes.
Sure.
Anthony Stevens, why did you discontinue the Batbones tricopter, and what flight controllers are you using these days for DIY projects? Thanks. We did discontinue the Batbone tricopter. Something we say here a lot, especially as far as multi-rotor are concerned, is that like 1 year in multi-rotor years is like 5 years, or like five multi-rotor years.
Yeah.
So that means that like the Batbone tricopter would be like 35 years old. so yeah, there's just better products out there. Honestly, is the real answer. David Vindestall, he's still doing his tricopter deal, and he makes an amazing product. So if you're looking at getting into a DIY multi-rotor product, or a tricopter product rather, there's so much great stuff out there.
Yeah.
And it's just that Batbone's 35 years old. So.
As far as flight controllers are concerned, I mean, it's pretty much whatever we have on hand. Nowadays there's really not a wrong answer.
There's so many good ones. Yeah.
If it's been made within the last 6 months to a year, it's going to work fine.
Yeah, it's so funny that he says 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
How many have come out? How many have come out
Dude,
within a
there's
year?
so many, and that's the thing. It's more of what you need it for, to kind of determine that, if it's just a typical quadcopter, anything is going to work. If it's like a quadcopter that you want to use a servo to drop something with, you're going to kind of need to work around stuff.
Yeah.
So the MRM Mantis is what I've used for that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So moving on here, let's see where we're at. Chris Finley asks, flight test, would you be willing to produce all the larger DIY planes like the Bronco, Sea Duck, etc., in the mini scale, like the Tiny Trainer, Mini Guinea, etc.? I would like to see a mini Sea Duck.
The sea duckling, as it were.
Sea duckling.
There's actually been
now
a
it has
couple
to be
people.
made.
There's actually been a couple people on the forum, Chris Finley, and I think there are some plans actually already online of a guy that made a miniature. We call it the sea duckling. I don't think he calls it the sea duckling, but I do.
Awesome.
But you can go actually check on the forums for that, and actually I think you can download those build plans. So if you wanted to get an opportunity to do that, go and check that out, because that's it. On that note, it would be cool to see a lot of all the other big planes in miniature planes, but they don't always just scale down.
Yeah.
Usually, from what I understand, there's different characteristics. When you get smaller, it gets a little more squirrely.
And odds are somebody's tried it,
Right.
So search the forums and search the articles,
Yep.
and lots of times people put out plans if it does turn out decent.
100%. All right, I'm going to go to Adam McElroy. When will TJ strap Stefan onto the mighty huge drone to #make Stefan fly?
Well, that one, unless you go on a big diet and lose a couple legs, I don't think it'll lift you.
Okay.
But something hopefully coming up fairly soon may. Now, does that say that we're going to lift somebody? Probably not.
I'd say definitely not.
I'd say
Yeah.
nope.
Don't worry, Stefan's gonna fly here in just a week or so.
Right. Yeah. Jump out of an airplane. See what happens.
Next question, or is it my turn?
Yeah.
Yes, it is your turn.
Jake Soley. What is the worst injury on someone on your team has sustained? Thankfully, we haven't had like a ton of injuries here, but I
Right.
can't think of a couple.
Josh plus Raccoon?
Well,
I mean, that's not
I don't
on
know
the
if this,
show,
I don't know if this is like related to
Yeah.
flight tests. So we'll do ones that were here in the building, but Alex definitely got a nice little gash on his thumb.
Yep.
He armed a quad that had props on, and it wasn't something wasn't flashed correctly.
It wigged out or
It
something.
wigged out, and that happens. Always keep your props off if you're unless you're certain of what's going on there. Another one I can think of is when we first moved into this building. David Vindestall was doing some 3D printing stuff, and he had his 3D printer going, and it completed, and he was here. I think it was after hours. He was here by himself, and he went to, as you know, with 3D printing, sometimes like the filament, it'll stick to the plate, the printing bed, and there's usually a little like scraper that you use to pry it off the printing bed. And he pushed that scraper like really deep into his finger accidentally. Like it slipped and went really deep into his finger. Man. And he's not like great with like blood and that sort of thing. And so he actually passed out. And so he's here by himself. He cuts his finger. He passes out, and he wakes up, and there's like a pool of blood like around his hand, and he's like, "Where am I? What's happening?" He told this story on this podcast a long time ago, but he said that like he woke up and he thought that he was in school and like it was time to go to school, and like he was like having trouble like orienting himself. So maybe he bumped his head a little bit. We're not sure.
No,
But
dude.
those are like the two standouts. Thankfully, that those are both pretty minor, and we can laugh about them. But yeah, we try to keep things pretty safe here. We try to have maximum fun with maximum safety. So yeah, no horrendous injuries yet.
Not
we
yet.
we can laugh about them still.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
That's so true. Oh.
that's crazy. So we'll go here to
We'll take another one or two.
Yeah, we'll take two more.
one that kind of stood out to me is Christopher Trent, I believe. Hey, Flight Test, how do you go about troubleshooting problems with planes and quads?
That's a great question.
Yeah, and I mean it's don't look at the big picture. You know, when you look at a quadcopter, don't look at it as a quadcopter. Look at it as each individual part. So the best thing to do with troubleshooting, depending on the problem, is start with whatever seems simple. So, for instance, a big question I usually get is, why is my quadcopter freaking out when I arm it? And a lot of times it's either going to be props are on wrong, which is the easiest thing to check. Motor direction is not correct. So take your props off. If they are correct, remove them. Check your motor direction. If that's not correct, then look at your board orientation. Go into beta flight or clean flight or whatever you use and check orientation. So, I mean, just, break it down step by step and take a deep breath and look at it by piece by piece.
And
It's great info.
something else you can do that I almost always do when I'm building something is that some of our builds for our multi-rotor builds on our channel, like FT210 and Versacopter and some of the other ones, they have an insane amount of views on them. And I don't suspect it's because that many people are actually building that particular quad, but because people are following that build because it's the same concept, it's the same parts, it's the same wires that you're plugging in. So if you're just trying to double check yourself, there's a ton of great builds out there that you can just follow along the video and just say, okay, this is how this plugged in, this is where he placed these motors, this is where and just kind of just double check yourself that way. That's a huge benefit of those videos, is that you can just watch somebody else put one together. And a brushless motor is a brushless motor, an ESC is an ESC. A lot of flight controllers have a lot of similarities, so you can just kind of follow along and get the gist that way.
It's a great question. Last but not least, let's do. All right. Andrew Campbell, who's funnier, Josh Scott or Stefan? Josh Scott for sure, 100%.
I gotta say both.
100% agree.
We love you guys the same.
Yeah,
That's exactly the same.
It's you're both. It's different.
Right.
I mean, that's all it is. The sarcasm and the funniness is just different from both of you, and I love and hate you both the same.
Oh, I really appreciate that. I still think Josh is funnier. He's pretty hilarious. So obviously that's all the time we got today. But thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for
TJ
asking.
and Austin. Really appreciate it. Obviously this has been a pretty cool podcast with all the brushless stuff, enjoy and all that, because obviously that's all that new technology that's coming out. So keep on the lookout for everything new on that scene, because I'm sure it will blow up as it already has done. So everybody, thanks so much for watching and for listening on whatever platform you are doing so. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. Hit that notification button, because we obviously have a lot of content that comes out regularly, so you can be reminded of that. And we will see you guys next time.
All right, guys. Thanks. See ya.
Deuces.
Bye.
Flight.